Very good morning to you and welcome to my living room. My name's Alex Fox and today I'm going to be interviewing Marian Newman, who is the consultant to the advisory board of the British Beauty Council. Just want to point out, I've heard news this morning that the new guidelines that were published just 2 days ago by the British Beauty Council have in 2 days had 24,000 views. Just so you know, British Beauty Council is in the fight for nail salons, beauty salons, hair salons. It is all about a voice at government level for us. It's free to enter, or free to become a member, sorry. And it's really important that we stand by the British Beauty Council because they are our voice at government level. And they're doing everything in their power for us and behind the scenes. Free to become a member, please join, because the more members they have, the louder the voice for us in the industry. So, going to be talking to Marian Newman today because Marian was the consultant that created the guidelines with some help and consulting with Doug Schoon. Marian has a very rich tapestry in the nail industry. It spans over 30 years. She was a forerunner in session styling. She has been a salon owner, a product innovator. She's written 4 textbooks. She has a coffee table book. She ran nail competitions in the early years. She's an international judge. She's an international consultant for nails. She started out in forensic science. And now she moved over and blended forensic science with creativity and became a huge voice and force in the nail industry. Now, I'm hoping she's going to appear on this live so that I can invite her to join me in a second. But yeah, for people that don't know, Marian is always fighting the corner of the nail tech in the nail industry. She's a huge figure and a very important person for us. She believes in this industry completely. And she also believes in correct procedures, and therefore she is a huge force for us. In my view, she's a true nail hero, and basically, let's face it, she knows a lot. So I'm going to hope that Marian, you need to request to join me, darling, unless I tap on you and it says, go live with Marian. So let's have a look if Marian's going to pop into this little live now. Hope she is. Waiting for Marian Newman. Oh, hello and very good morning, Marian.
Good morning, Foxy.
Hello. Right, I'm gonna jump straight in, darling. Because we don't have long. Because by the way, I didn't mention that Marian also has been running during lockdown something called Madge's Chat Show. That is 1 o'clock every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. She talks about incredibly important things regarding our current situation, as well as wider things in the industry. Today, I believe she's got Lisa Smith talking about finances in the salon. That will be at 1 o'clock. You need to pop onto Madge's Chat Show on Facebook and request to enter, and Marian will let you in. Become a member. It's doing really well, and people are really getting a lot from it. Anyway, jumping straight in. Now then, I've noted that since the guidelines came out, we're talking about risk assessment a lot. And what I understand is that what we need to do, Marian, is we need to move into salons opening in this country where we have client confidence and we have nail tech confidence and safety. It's about everybody going into the salon, feeling safe, feeling happy, and getting what they want out of it. So when we talk about the guidelines that have come out, what I wanted to start with was trying to understand what exactly is a guideline, because it's not a law. Therefore, it's not something that we're being told you must do. I imagine a guideline is something that you follow if you are trying to do things correctly. So this ties in with the do your own risk assessment, because obviously one size doesn't fit all. And therefore, every nail tech out there needs to look at her own salon and environment, be it mobile, home, or salon with staff, and actually do her own risk assessment. So can you come in and tell us all about how to use these guidelines and what to do with assessing our own environment, please?
Okay, well, I'll tell you as far as I know, because nobody really actually knows what is going to happen. But all the various sectors have compiled their suggested guidelines. These suggested guidelines have been submitted to the relevant government department who are reviewing them. Now, how long that's going to take, nobody knows. How it's actually going to come out from government, nobody knows, because it changes by the day, it seems. You know, a few weeks ago, it was hurry up, we need them now. and then, oh, no, we don't. So it's sort of hurry up and wait at the moment. So from what I understand, there's not going to be any mandate from government about these. They're guidelines, but like a lot of the guidelines that we've had from government already, the whole social distancing thing, there is very likely to be fines connected to them, like there is now. If people get caught not doing the right thing, they can get fined immediately. So my guess is that the guidelines will be similar to that. It's not going to be a law, as far as I know, because government can't just suddenly make a law, because you said at the beginning, one size doesn't fit all, and it truly doesn't fit all. And this is the thing. None of the other sectors seem to be putting too much emphasis on the whole risk assessment thing. Now, we are, because I think it's the only way, quite honestly, because you get a set of guidelines and they'll fit some people and they don't fit somebody else. So I think the whole risk, it's something I really believe in very strongly, that every individual, I mean, I'm talking nails here, I'm not talking about beauty, they'll have a whole different set of guidelines. So I think it's really important that every individual nail technician, whether they're a salon owner, an employee, they're renting a chair, they're mobile, they have a home salon, regardless, I really believe that is the way forward, is to do your own risk assessment, base them on the guidelines, but do your own risk assessment. And between now and when we do get the date when we can open, because although we've got the 4th of July, it's still movable. It could change, it could come forward as easy as it could go backwards. So I'm going to be helping do risk assessments for people that are a bit stuck, because I'm just getting so many questions and major stresses, and it's like, don't panic, it's fine. So yeah, risk assessments I think is absolutely the way to go. As far as laws and stuff, I don't think so. I don't know how we're going to get them from government. They might just say, yeah, it's fine, go on then.
Okay, so if we look at it, Marian, that we're looking at guidelines. So we know that from reading the guidelines that have been set out by the British Beauty Council and yourself, for example, wearing a mask. So we now know that there's certain types of masks we need to be wearing, and we need our client to be wearing a mask. So what if we have a situation where a client, there's two ways that could go here. First of all, you've got a client that's refusing to wear a mask for whatever reason. And it could be, for example, that asthmatics, just because I happen to know an asthmatic who is having a real problem wearing a mask right now because she feels she can't breathe and gets claustrophobic. There are people that are going to have issues with that. Also, if everybody's being good and we're wearing masks for 2 months, at what point do we decide that we're not going to be doing that anymore? Is this something that's just going to go on and on and on, that we're going to be expecting to be masked up in the salon? How's this going to work?
Again, this is something that we're going to get from the general, we've got general government guidelines, and we should be following these. I mean, I know there are lots of people that don't believe in them. They don't believe masks are effective at all. Then there are others that are too scared to walk outside the front door without a mask. But at the moment, for the sort of personal services that we're talking about, which is, sitting face to face in a nail salon, it's absolutely part and a crucial part that both people must wear masks, because what a mask does for a client, but particularly for a client, is a mask is protecting everybody else from them, because you can have symptoms of this horrible disease without, you can have the disease without having any symptoms at all. So you're asymptomatic and you don't know whether you've got it or not because you haven't got any symptoms, or the symptoms are so minor. I mean, one of the symptoms is you lose your sense of smell, and that's it. And I know quite a few people that have had that version. So we're at this precise moment, and I'm sure up until when we open and beyond, it is going to be an absolute rule that both people wear masks. And so in various conversations that I've had with various groups, like on the British Beauty Council, is that if a client refuses to wear a mask, no service. And I do feel for the people that are asthmatic there, I've had a lot of people say to me, I've tried it and I just feel so claustrophobic. Yeah. I think if that's the case, the client only needs to wear, a paper disposable mask. the nail technician does need to wear something a bit more robust, but for the client, it's a simple paper mask. And I think those are the easiest to wear because, you know, you've got plenty of air, if you like, coming in from this, although there are proper ways to wear them. So at the moment, it's no mask, no service.
Okay, and I'm guessing that the sensible thing to do here would be when people do start opening up their appointment books, the most sensible way to move forward would be to actually speak directly to every client, and don't have any automated online bookings or anything, where you're actually talking to the client and saying, these are the steps and measures that I'm putting into place. Will you adhere to them all? That way you know that every client coming is going to be, like I say, adhering to your rules. Now, I wanted to move on to something that's in the same ilk, if you like, is this idea that COVID can live on shoes for potentially around 5 hours or more. How does this work when we've got traffic coming into our salon and on their shoes? Because there's a train of thought, is there not, that maybe those special shoe coverings that you see in hospitals could be given to wear in the salon, or shoes taken off entirely. And I see that in your guidelines you did say for pedicures, definitely you want shoes removed on arrival, and then feet soaked before you touch them, etc. But what do we do about normal people wearing shoes coming to the salon, do you think?
Okay, well, there does seem to be an amount of evidence to suggest that the virus can live for 5 hours on shoes. I don't know why shoes have been picked up on particularly, because it can live on clothes as well. So, exactly. But anyway, shoes. See, this is where one size doesn't fit all. Most salons, I would imagine, have got a hard surface flooring. And so it's very, very easy to just wipe down or spray and wipe, because we all know that alcohol kills the virus in something like 30 seconds. So a hard surface is obviously the most ideal situation. It can just be wiped down. You know, there's got to be 15 minutes or so in between clients. And so wiping down the floor, I think, is a very easy, you know, spray and wipe. If you haven't got a hard surface, then this is where your risk assessment needs to come in. If you've got carpet and you know, you're aware of this 5 hour living on shoes thing, then I don't actually think it's fair to ask clients to take their shoes off, because they don't know what's on that carpet either. And so then they're going to put their shoes back on. And, you know, that there's a level of sensibility, common sense, and there's also this risk assessment. So each individual, do your risk assessment. If you've got a hard surface floor, it's no problem. Just swab it down. You know, it'll take you a minute, unless you've got a massive salon. But if you haven't got a hard surface floor, I think it's a bit unfair to ask clients to take their shoes off and walk around in either bare feet or socks or whatever.
Well, I'm guessing there's the idea, Marian, sorry that was very rude of me to interrupt, but I was just thinking about those groovy little pedi slippers that we've had forever.
Well, pedi slippers is one option, yes, but I know everyone's panicking a lot about all the extra cost that things are coming in. So yeah, that, I mean, you know, in your risk assessment, if that's the solution, that's what it is. Or you get those disposable coverings, you know, they're usually blue. They cost pennies, you know, you get a big box of them. So provide those. But if you do provide those, there's an extra cost. You've got to put that extra cost on your cost of product, your fixed overheads, etc. And you've just got to charge for it.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, I mean, I was coming to that in a second, actually. So thank you for covering that, Marian. I was going to move now to the single use file, which is something that a lot of salons have actually been doing for some time, because it's a lovely idea that you know that when your client comes in, new file, fresh file, never been used before, use it on that client and then say, happy birthday, here's a little gift, and they can trot home with it. That's groovy. Now, obviously that's now something we need to do. And I know that when you look at masks and all the extra cleaning products and all the extra cleaning that we'll be doing, and the single-use files, there are people sitting there thinking, goodness gracious me, I'm having to buy all these extra bits and bobs. So it seems to me that I know that people are very worried about it, but I think the best way to deal with that is to, from opening, put an extra bit on the services. Do you not think? Just to charge a little bit more. And I think if people were to assess what they're charging, what they're paying out for the extra bits and bobs, and then put it across services, it wouldn't amount to too much, do you think?
No, it would amount to very, very little. And this is one of the things Lisa's going to be talking about. But I mean, I think, again, you know, when you're booking clients, just be transparent about it and say, you know, I've had to put X amount, £2, £1, whatever, on top of your service because, but just to go back to the single-use files, it isn't, in the guidelines, it doesn't say that. Single-use files is the number one preference. That is the number one. It's like autoclaves is the number one because autoclaves is 100. It sterilizes to 100%. Single-use files is safe to 100%. But and I did have a discussion with Doug about this as well. And I know lots of people. For some reason, files have caused one of the biggest panics. Well, autoclaves first, and now files. So I did put a little thing up the other day because I was just getting too many questions and files, and I could see people panicking about it. Single use is the number one preference because it's 100%. But if you have files that are washable and disinfectable, there's absolutely no reason, and it's no good with the cheap ones, they'll fall apart. You do have to buy more expensive files to do this, and it will say whether they're washable or disinfectable. So, you know, if single-use files isn't for you, and it is actually law in a lot of countries, and a lot of people in this country do it, loads of people wouldn't dream of doing anything else, but one size doesn't fit all. So if you get a better quality file that is washable, there is absolutely no reason why you can't clean them. And by cleaning, that is washing with soap and water and a brush, you know, nail brush, under running water. That cleans them. That gets rid of all the debris that gets stuck inside the grit. Then disinfect them with whatever your disinfectant is, following the manufacturer's rules to the letter. And this is really important. You know, the dilution, the amount of time, etc. Then leaving them to dry, and you know, they really do have to be completely dry, and then putting them in the clean box. So you have one box with a lid that has used files, you have another box with a lid that has clean files. And I did see a really good suggestion this morning. I think it was on Madge, saying, why not ask the client, you know, do you want to pay an extra £1 or £1.50 or whatever and have a brand new file, or are you happy to have a file that I've cleaned and disinfected and it is perfectly okay to use? So risk assessment, use common sense, and just make everything as safe as you possibly can. Whether you agree with this whole PPE, with this whole whether you agree or not, what that is going to do is it's going to make your clients feel confident that they're in as safe an environment as they can possibly be. And I think that is key, because a lot of people are going to be terrified that coming back.
There was something, actually, Marian, I know this is a little bit off piece, so forgive me, but I think it's important while I've got your ear or your face to ask this question, because it came up in one of your Madge shows the other day that I was watching. I can't remember in what context it came up, so forgive me, but it was insurance policies came up. And I just kind of wanted to highlight, and maybe you could reiterate, that that there's, I can't remember, maybe it was to do with autoclaves actually, and it was to do with people not realizing that their insurance policy actually required them to have one. And so I guess what I wanted to highlight here, and to Marian to reiterate, is that, guys, please read your insurance policies absolutely inside and out, because it might be that you've been trading uncovered since the beginning of your policy. If your policy specifies you have to have an autoclave, you actually have to have one.
You do.
Otherwise you could end up in a bit of a pickle.
Exactly. The only problem with that is, and this has come up because people have been reading their insurance policies, or they've been calling their broker or whatever, and a lot of people does have on their insurance policy that they should be using an autoclave. If that's what it says, that's what it says, and you have to do it. But it also said, and I've been having conversations with Doug about this as well, is also on these insurance policies, is it says an autoclave or a glass bead sterilizer. Now that, and I've done my own research, but I also sent Doug an email last night, because a lot of the beauty therapy guidelines have got using a glass bead sterilizer or a UV cabinet. to do their sterilisation. And although nobody is actually arguing with me, and I wish they would, but I'm hearing that they're disagreeing with what I've been saying on various forums. So I thought, right, let's get it from the real expert here. And so I got a reply straight back from Doug. I might not share it because I think he might write something now, but basically he doesn't mince his words, and everything he says is 100% backed up with scientific fact. It's not opinions. He's basically saying it's consumer fraud. Now that is tough words. So glass bead sterilizers, he said, I put a little clip of his video up yesterday. He said, throw them in the bin. Don't even consider using them. And he said that that selling these as a sterilizer is consumer fraud. And I was like, wow, I wouldn't be brave enough to say something like that. And then for UV cabinets, the sort of UV cabinets that are being sold are completely inappropriate. You can sterilize with UV, but it's UVC, and UVC hurts your eyes. So if you've got a UV cabinet with a glass door, that is not UVC, because you shouldn't be looking at it. And UV has to, the surfaces have to be exposed. So you have to leave them in there in UVC, not any old UVC. You have to leave them in there, and then using tongs, you have to turn it for like an hour or something. You have to turn them over so the UV gets to the other side. And if it's something like nippers or clippers, it's not going to get in the pivot point. So they don't work.
Okay, so what we need to do, Marian, is we just need to, because I know that this is going to be news to a lot of people, because I'm watching the little bits and the little information, the little points we've got there. Please, can you just do me a favor? Because obviously in the guidelines, it says if you have an autoclave, make sure it's maintained to its absolute working ability. No messing about. It doesn't actually say you have to have an autoclave though. So please, could you do us a little favor and just clarify exactly what is okay for a nail technician in the coming life that we're about, the landscape that we're about to walk into. Exactly what can they do with those nippers and files, etc., their tools on a daily basis that will keep them safe, basically, and hygienic. Can you just clarify? So we know glass bead cabinets, no.
Glass bead sterilizers, chuck in the bin.
Right, so
UV cabinets, don't do it. So there are two alternatives. There always has been. None of this, and I've said it many times, none of this is new. All of this is standards that have been around forever. It's just people don't do them for whatever reason. So you've got two alternatives. 100% effectiveness is an autoclave. That's 100%, as long as it's working properly. The alternative, and this is an acceptable alternative for us in the nail industry, the acceptable alternative is you use a disinfectant at its highest level, and you get lots of different levels, and there are lots of N numbers, and I have put the N numbers up somewhere, but all you have to do is ask your manufacturer. And the two main ones, I know there are others, but the two main ones in this country is Barbicide and Mundo, and their highest level disinfectant is 99.9, and the only thing it doesn't get is spores. So there are two alternatives. Obviously, using a disinfectant is a lot less outlay at the beginning than an autoclave, but over time, an autoclave should last you years. Over time, it probably ends up much the same. I wouldn't like to say what that period of time is. Two alternatives. Some of the beauty industry guidelines are saying you must have an autoclave, and they're being quite critical of our guidelines because it doesn't say that. But common sense, understanding the science, there is every way we can stay safe with alternatives. So autoclave 100%, highest level disinfectant, used properly 99.9%.
Thank you. Right, now moving on, because we're running out of time, and this is incredibly interesting. Moving on to gloves, Marian. Nitrile gloves. There's some talk out there about people saying don't wear gloves, people saying gloves, and people saying double glove. What do we do with gloves?
Okay, well, nitrile gloves is important because a lot of people are allergic to vinyl. So powderless nitrile gloves, for now, we have to do this. I think there's a big percentage of the nail industry that wear gloves anyway now. I know there are some that don't. For now, you have to wear gloves. Double gloves is something different. Double gloves is for when you have an allergy. So if you have an allergy to a monomer or whatever, then you have to protect yourself. So there's this whole double gloving thing, barrier cream underneath, double gloves, change them every 30 minutes. Right. Two different things.
Thank you very much for clarifying that, because that's where I've got myself in a little bit of a tiz, was because I've been watching too many chat shows. I mean, nail chat shows, by the way. Right, moving on to dust capture, please. So we have a situation where we know from stuff that yourself and Doug have put out that the virus likes pollution and treats it like a magic carpet, so can fly around sitting on pollution, and that's how it gets about. And we obviously know that dust filings are superb magic carpets, so dust capture is now something we need to take very seriously. What I wanted to ask is, we know that there's companies out there that do some very nice dust capture actually at source, and not necessarily everybody wants these things on their desk, but it's the way we're moving forward. But what if you're mobile? What do you do if you're mobile?
Well, you can get some very neat, small, little desktop mobile units. You can get really efficient ones. And the one that I've had recommended by a few people now is called the Zephyros. It's not the cheapest. It's about, I don't know, about nearly £300, I think. So it's not the cheapest, but it is, from what I understand, I don't have one, haven't tried it, but from what I understand, it is the most efficient. But quite honestly, if you're using an e-file, I think, again, risk assessment, do your own risk assessment. If you're using an e-file, then you do need to have a very efficient dust capture. But if you're doing, and it does say this in the guidelines actually, if you're just doing, manicures and gel polish and you're not creating too much dust, you don't need dust capture. Just have very good working practices by having several layers of paper towels on your desk.
That's interesting. That's an interesting, I didn't honestly realize that. So that's very interesting, because what I'm thinking is from a client's perspective, because some clients are really switched on and they know what they're talking about and they know what they want to see. If you're a client, what questions do you think a client should be asking and should be expecting when they come in the salon? Should they be looking for ventilation, or is it correct that open doors and windows is enough?
Risk assessment. It depends on your environment every time. So from a client's point of view, they have got to see really good PPE. They've got to be very aware of the fact that your hygiene standards are the highest possible that you can make them. And, if it's not obvious in the salon, tell them, show them, this is what I'm doing to make you as safe as possible. As far as dust is concerned, dust has always been a hazard. This isn't new. The focus just happens to have come on it now because we found out that, the magic carpets. Dust has always been the most hazardous risk in nail salons forever. Regardless of the fact that we're living in a landscape with COVID, the fact is that nobody wants to sit and swallow dust filings all day long, do they? Because that's always been an issue for us in the nail industry, and maybe now, because of this new landscape, we will be addressing two things with one solution. Yeah, I'm guessing. Yeah, I do actually see this, and a lot of people are thinking the same as well, that this is a horrible situation that we find ourselves in, but there are going to be some positives that come out of it. And I think this is one of the positives, is it's bringing this particular industry, it's bringing the focus back to the standards that have always been there.
Yeah.
And, maybe you should actually start following them. Maybe you're beginning to believe that, there is sense in these standards that have been there as long as I've been in the industry.
Marian, I know I'm really cheeky and I keep butting in, but my brain's just thinking, it might be poignant to say right now that anybody that didn't know that these standards already existed probably hasn't been taught them. And that is where we need to actually start thinking about the education that we've got in this industry. And obviously education is a very, very grey area and has been all along.
Yeah.
But I think if this is news to any nail techs out there, they need to question the education they've been given, because there are brands out there we know for a fact definitely speak of these standards in their preliminary education, their foundation education, that there's like, hello, good morning, welcome to the nail industry. We're going to talk about health and hygiene. These things, health, hygiene standards, etc. There's brands out there that absolutely teach this, and there's brands that
plenty that don't.
So, yeah.
And it really isn't new. And the trouble is, you don't know what you don't know. If you haven't been taught it, so many people, I was never taught that. You don't know if you're trusting your teacher to teach you well, then you are, and you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know the questions to ask if you don't know they're there. But my first textbook was published in 2001, and you know, these particular standards have been all the way through my textbooks from '01. So, and they were part of the occupational standards. So, but if you're not told, how do you know? Well, now's the time to find out.
I would definitely recommend, just because I mean, I'm a journalist in this industry, not a nail technician. But when I started out, I found your textbooks taught me so much. And Doug Schoon, oh my goodness, I used to go to bed with Doug Schoon's book in the early days, so that I could really get my.
He'd love to know that.
So the thing is that, sorry, in this little moment of live, I would say to any nail tech out there that is questioning, I think Marian's point there is, you don't know what you don't know. Best way to do it is get a textbook and find out what you don't know, because it is all out there. It's always been out there. And as Marian says, she's written guidelines that have actually been written forever. It's just now we're going to start really putting them in order. We're going to start policing them together as an industry, and we're going to start coming together and making this industry stronger and better.
And we want, you know, bearing in mind, right back at the beginning, you were asking me about laws and stuff. I don't think there's going to be any. I don't know who's going to police all this, because, you know, budgets of every government department are cut. It should be the environmental health departments, but, you know, we hardly see those. So I think it's really, really important. I think it's crucial that we as an industry let our clients know and let the consumer know that we are doing everything we can to be able to reopen, and reopen in such a way and an environment that makes them safe, that keeps us safe, and they will be okay to come back. Because I know a lot of people are going to be worried at coming back. There is going to be a drop off. I guessed a little while ago, and somebody said they think I'm probably quite close, is there's going to be a good 30% drop off. Because they might not have enough money. They've discovered they can do without nails, they can do them at home, or they're just plain scared. So, you know, we don't want to lose those people.
No, we need to step up, don't we?
We do, but we need to tell the consumer, the consumer, we are doing our best. And this is what you can expect. We will keep you safe. And we need to tell the consumer that, because we can talk to each other forever. You know, it's great, we're doing this, it's fabulous, we're doing that. Okay, all right, we know, as the, you know, the nail industry. Okay, right, we know it. We need to get the message out there.
Right, I'm going to close, Marian, on one last question, which is interesting because it was my last question and I can see people asking it. Let's talk about these Perspex screens that everybody's talking about. So just your take on it, because I know that you feel the same way as I do. So I don't know why I asked the question. No, I'm kidding. I know that we feel the same, though, that it's, if it makes you happy and it makes you feel safe, go for it. And if it doesn't, don't. But let's have your more mature aspect on that, please.
More mature. Thanks. All right. I'm older than you. I could be your mother. Yeah, I've been around a while. That's been a recent joke. Okay, Perspex Screens. That's exactly it. If you think it's going to make your clients feel more comfortable and feel safe, then do it. Fine. They're not going to do any harm. Put it that way. They're not going to do a huge amount of good, because you still need to have all the rest of the PPE. We do know that the virus itself isn't airborne, but it does the magic carpet rides. So it is all around. So, you know, those screens, unless you have floor to ceiling and there's hardly any contact at all, then it's not actually going to do anything. People have put a quote that's on one of the government, it's on the government website, and it's talking about you must have screens. They're talking about screens that are in big traffic areas. So, you know, for example, supermarkets or, you know, places like that where people are coming in and they're not hygienic. You know, they're not safe. They're not wearing gloves. They're not wearing masks. You don't know where they've been. You don't know who they are. So it's the screens for the big traffic areas. But for, you know, this face-to-face, I can understand why people think, you know, they're needed. If you think they're needed, then do it. But just remember that a Perspex screen has a lot of static electricity, so it attracts dust. It's another thing that you're going to have to clean down with alcohol, not acetone. As soon as you get acetone on that screen, you've wrecked it. I'm not sure how you can, if the lamps have got to be on the client side. So you have to get your client to turn the lamp on, because how are you going to like reach your hands round to turn the lamp on? And some of the like little letterboxes you know, people that do enhancements, they want that hand right up in front of their face so they can see all the angles.
You
That
need
means
to look down the barrel of the nail, don't you? You need to be looking at the C curve and apex placement.
There
Yes,
you
you
go.
do.
Shape and form. So that means bringing the client's whole arm, you know, past the elbow, up through that letterbox, so you can turn the hand around like that. If you want a screen, buy a screen.
It's going to be tricky, but I mean, just on another, on that note though, Marian, I did see that Madeline Wolf, we all know Madeline Wolf, 2017 Nail Olympia champion, global champion. I mean, absolute legend of a nail tech. She's just put them in her salon in Sweden, and they look really funky, by the way.
Yeah,
so
but the one
you know,
she's got is pretty.
It is. I mean, she's done it really nicely, hasn't she? I was quite impressed.
A band with, you know, nice stainless steel feet.
Yeah.
It's doing nothing because it's only, you know, it's only about that wide and it's just a band.
But it is sometimes. I mean, it's not a bad thing, is it, Marian?
No.
Sometimes psychology is a very important part of how people feel. If you've got all your PPE in order, and then you've got your screen up, and then psychologically everyone's got more peace of mind, then it can't be a bad thing. It's just obviously cleaning the things between clients. That's just another thing to have to do in that what you do, because also we've talked about the adding time now between appointments that you didn't have before, and so you've got to add that time in, and time is money.
Yeah, you said there's you saying about psychology. I think this whole situation, the psychological aspect of it, you know, apart from the fact that people have had anxieties and all sorts of mental health issues being in lockdown, there's another whole set of psychological issues. Now we're planning to come out of lockdown, and when we are out of lockdown, and this is one of the main reasons why I'm really pushing risk assessment, because as soon as you start telling people you have to do this, they fight. And they find every reason why not to do that. Yeah, but. Whereas I think the responsibility, it's really important that the responsibility should be put back on every individual. And by doing your own personal risk assessment is putting the responsibility back on you. And I think that is really important. And I think there should be an amount of responsibility put on the client as well. So first of all, the responsibility that they're truthful, that they haven't had any flu-like symptoms for the last 7 days.
Yes, that's going to be a tricky one, isn't it? But I was going to say, I actually just wanted to close actually on a little idea, Marian, that I've been toying with. What do you think about adding something onto consultation forms? Because I'm thinking that I was talking to a nail tech yesterday who was reminding me that consultation forms with your clients should be updated and renewed annually anyway. So obviously opening up the salon in the near future would be a sensible time to revisit all your client cards. Do you think there should be a disclaimer on there somewhere that says something, no, you don't like that idea?
No, because a disclaimer it's not worth the paper it's written on. Disclaimers do not hold up in court in any way, shape or form. So a disclaimer is nothing. I mean, you could put a disclaimer on there and your client might believe that it's you know, it has an important role, but actually legally it's got no role at all. But I do think that on your consultation forms, again, this is going back to client responsibilities as well. I do think that you should, when you make the booking, and you should talk to them the day before maybe and ask them the question then. It's no good when they're in your salon and they say, oh yeah, I had a temperature 2 days ago. It's too late. You need to ask them that actually before they come into your salon. And going back to what you said, it's worth making telephone or at least text bookings so that you can actually talk to the person, and you can make them understand what is expected of them. They have a responsibility too. Don't bring other people with you. Don't bring children with you. Don't bring a huge great bag. Don't touch your personal belongings once you've washed your hands.
So we are looking at coming into the salon. Your handbag goes down, your coat comes off, you go and wash your hands immediately, and there's no cash. Is this correct? We're not going to be taking cash.
No
in
cash.
Salons.
Well, that's the guidelines. No cash.
Yeah. So again, it's a guideline.
It's all guidelines. There's no law.
Right.
No one's going to be put in prison if they break them.
But what we don't want, for example, is what we do want is in the appointment making time, we want the salon owner at Nail Tech to be telling the client, when you come in, you will not be touching your phone. No phones at the nail desk, no cups of tea. Let's not, we're coming in.
Absolutely. The cup of tea thing is rumbling around. That is still rumbling around. It's definitely not in the nail guidelines. It is in the beauty guidelines. When people have asked me about it and I've done my chats, I've told them the risks, because it's all risk assessment. I've told them the risks and told them to make up their own mind.
Yeah.
Because this giving people instructions doesn't work. Give people the responsibility I think is the most important. And
I think certainly we should be looking at when we open and when we're all back to work. I think we should be looking at following these guidelines to a T. And it is about coming in, getting your nails done and going out. It's literally in, out, and not shake it all about. Like, sorry.
No, you're smudging nail polish.
In, out, and then cleaning up, and health and hygiene. So I think I've certainly covered everything I wanted to cover, and I know in 20 minutes you're going live with Lisa. So I'd like to finish by you, if there's something I haven't covered that you want the Nail Tech world to know, because this will be saved onto Scratch Magazine Instagram live today, and I believe it will be sorted out to end up on Facebook and the Scratch TV website. So is there something you want to tell the nail world or the client world, please, Marian?
Well, the client world, definitely be confident and come back, because the nail world is doing their best to make it right, and make it safe. For the nail world, if you're not following these guidelines and you're not doing your risk assessment, why not?
Yeah, you have to ask yourself, why not? What are you scared of? What are you hiding from? Because it's just naughty, isn't it?
Right now, opinions, I mean, some people don't even believe COVID exists, you know, and some people, there are lots of different beliefs and opinions out there. But right now, let's just all assume it does exist. It's deadly. We've had 32,000 deaths in this country. We're the second highest country for deaths. So there's something happening. So whatever it might be, whatever your beliefs are, whatever your politics are, it really doesn't matter. For now, we want to reopen. We want the economy to get moving again. It's essential, because we're all going to have to pay for this in the end.
We are.
You know, it'll come out of our taxes or something.
Shockingly, we will. It will.
We all need to start earning money. So just for now, just do it. And if you don't do it, do your risk assessment, get it right. If you don't do it, why not?
Okay, well, Marian, I have to say thank you very much for joining me this morning and going through these guidelines with me. Thank you very much for being the person.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you so much for working behind the scenes with Millie Kendall and all the lovely people at the British Beauty Council, because I know Millie's getting very little sleep at the moment, because she is battling for us behind the scenes at government level. And you know, if you're watching, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means
Millie's got a meeting with the government office probably right now as we speak. So I'm hoping to hear about that. She's a hero
for our industry right now, a total hero. So thank you for having us. I mean, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for the people watching for having us.
That's it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you've got some good information from this today. And certainly, please go to the British Beauty Council website, see the guidelines for yourself. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Ciao.